All right, guys. It is that time of the quarter when we talk about what is going on in QuickBooks Desktop. I'm Marjorie. Thanks for joining us again. This quarter, I keep on saying month because I feel like it's been so short. But this quarter, I'm not going to have a ton to share. As you guys know, usually, right, changes in QuickBooks Desktop as far as product come out in September when they do the new releases, or used to. Of course, we're not doing new releases. They're just doing quarterly, like, drops of product changes. So I don't have any product changes to show you today, but I am going to show you a couple of other things. So let me go ahead and dive in to what our agenda is going to be. So we're going to talk about QuickBooks support updates, some things that have been going on in support. I want to make sure you guys are aware of. Talk a little bit about the Enterprise in the cloud through the Fourlane CX. September fixes coming. I can't disclose. So I know that there are September fixes coming. I've seen them, but I can't disclose what they are yet. So I'm just throwing that in there to let you guys know. And I think it's September. Sometimes it's September. Sometimes it's early October. But there are some fixes coming. And then also I think I'm going to run through today just a brief Intuit Enterprise Suite demo. There's been a lot of like behind the scenes and everybody not knowing what is going on with it. And so I just wanted to tinker through some of the menu items and some of the account settings and stuff like that so you guys can see some of it. It's not going to be full demo. We don't have enough time for that today, of course. But let me go ahead and dive in. So let's talk about Enterprise support fixes. So this is most of desktop. It's not just Enterprise. There was a problem for a while. It was, I think, a good 6 weeks where we had the QuickBooks Desktop to QBO. I'm sorry, I have that wrong. The QBO to QuickBooks Desktop, right? That was messed up. It would not work. We could not get the conversion tool, the in-product conversion tool from QuickBooks Online to QuickBooks Desktop to work. Sorry, I have it wrong on this slide. And there, of course, is all the conspiracy theories and all the things that Intuit broke it purposely because they don't want people to be able to move to desktop. That is not true. Intuit does not care what product you're in as long as you are in a QuickBooks product, right? So they'd much rather have you going from QBO to QuickBooks Desktop than QBO to Intact or Zero or something like that. So the QBO tool to QuickBooks Desktop has been fixed. So if we're having issues with it, generally what we've seen issues around it are that it is a environment problem, right? So if we do it in our environment, it works just fine. Sometimes clients' environments, there can be something competing with it and it won't work. And that's where this falls into. On our team, we have a QuickBooks support, which I'll throw the slide up for that in just a second. Of course, where, you know, when people, instead of people having to call QuickBooks support and deal with that fun, then they call us and our team, and we, you know, they submit a lead or a request for callback. We get back to them within 30 minutes with a scheduled call, right? So not just sitting on the phone waiting for somebody to pick up type thing. Anyway, so that's fixed. If you continue to have problems with it, that's why we have a QuickBooks support. They also fixed the latency issue with opening a file with attachments recently, so that got rolled out. There was like just a speed issue. It would take longer to open if the file had attachments. That should be fixed with the latest update. And then also there was a problem with being able to log into the Intuit account, and that was also rolled out and fixed. So some support fixes. How we know about these support fixes is that our support team, of course, finds these issues when clients call in, and we track the issues through to completion. And then, you know, if it's something that we can't control, of course, then we'll track it to make sure that our customers know when the issue is fixed. The one thing that we have outstanding right now in support is not something that's going to, like, you know, break anybody, but it's funny. So when you do search on reports for an amount that does not exist on the report, it's displaying this message, creating your migration file, right, which is clearly not what's happening. It should say something about like that number does not exist. So it's just an incorrect error. So that hasn't been fixed yet, but, you know, it's not breaking anybody. It's not like something's going wrong, but they do need to fix that error message. And then just about our support plans, of course, the biggest thing, the difference between the two is diagnosing corruption problems in the advanced We also will deal with licensing and camps issues, also payroll, and then apps connection assistance, right? So if the app saying it's QuickBooks and the QuickBooks saying it's the app, we will help solve that problem as well. Okay. Moving on, so let's talk a little bit about our cloud user interface for QuickBooks Enterprise. You guys have seen this now a couple of quarters in a row. We just want to make sure that you understand the changes that have happened. The reason why we represent this product, of course, is because our clients are asking to go to the cloud. Sometimes QuickBooks Online is not good enough yet, and they really just want Enterprise in the cloud. Right? And I know Intuit has this new product, IES, Intuit Enterprise Suite, which is an online product. It still doesn't have the inventory level things. And it still doesn't have several things, right, that QuickBooks Enterprise that we're used to having. It doesn't do manufacturing at all. So there's a lot of stuff in there that you have to stay in QuickBooks Desktop for. But our clients wanted cloud-based access. Also for boosting speed and accessibility, that's probably the number one call our support team gets is around QuickBooks crashes, or it freezes, or in the hosting site it freezes and I can't get it reopened, ghost users, and then speed, right, of just the product in general. And so that's where this product comes in play. And of course, if you can save some money in licensing, great. All right, so let me go ahead and do a quick dive into the product. Again, if you guys haven't seen this, definitely reach out and let us know. So true web-based products, I'm in marjorie.fourlanecx.com. I have a QuickBooks file open as well. And when I come in here, you can drill around, but you go to the Customer Center, you can see, right, all my customers, my jobs are in there. It looks and feels very similar to QuickBooks. I can zoom out and zoom in. Also, this is not something you can do in desktop. Some things that are really neat that you'll notice here too is that we have the ability to track hours on jobs, and it reports against those hours in here. So this job has a budget hours of 10, actual hours of 3, so we're 30% complete on the job. Little things that are above and beyond what QuickBooks does, but the overall reason for this, right, is that I have access to my QuickBooks data in the cloud. If I open up the invoice, even if the invoice was created 25 years ago, I can still come in and see the invoice, what was on the invoice. I can print the invoice and all that fun stuff. So it's very helpful. The other thing that we have added is we have added the ability to archive transactions. And so you can come in and archive non-posting transactions. When you archive the estimate, the sales order, the purchase order, what it'll do is it'll leave it accessible inside this product, but it'll remove it from the QuickBooks database so that the QuickBooks database can shrink. So for some of our clients that are really large, they have a lot of purchase orders, lots of sales orders, that's a great way to kind of mitigate in the QuickBooks file data, right? Because the sales order became an invoice. So you don't need it anymore at some certain point, and still have access to that data in CX if we needed it. Some of the other things in here, right, you do have the ability to enter time, weekly time, and then also you can build employee and user relationships, so you can tie things to the user, meaning like I want this user to default to this location, as an example, this warehouse. So you can see in here time, just same old stuff that we're used to seeing in time, just a real look and feel for what QuickBooks looks like. So again, going back into my deck here, the whole purpose of this is accessibility. You don't have to have hosting per se with this. You can have access to this in the cloud without hosting the product. It's a true web-based user interface for that QuickBooks data. The people who use it most often in our customer base it's going to be the salespeople, the purchasing people, right? Because you can purchase and you can receive items. Those people, the project managers, the the staff that needs to either view customer history, view vendor history, receiving items. It's going to be mainly staff around those kinds of things. Okay, moving along. So should I move into QuickBooks Enterprise Suite or Intuit? I put in here QuickBooks Intuit Enterprise Suite. I'm not quite sure. I think it's just Intuit Enterprise Suite. So let me go ahead and talk a little bit about this. So QuickBooks Online has 3 levels of QuickBooks Online, right? The highest being advanced. And then they have this new product that is Intuit Enterprise Suite. I've shown you guys pricing on it in previous videos, and we can talk a little bit about that as well coming up, how they break out the pricing. The biggest draw for our clients that are moving into Intuit Enterprise Suite is that they have multi-entity and they need consolidation. So previously, if you had needed consolidation with multi-entity in QuickBooks Enterprise, it kind of has like a little bit of a funky, right? Like hey, it goes into one file, pulls the balance sheet into Excel, then you have to log into the second file, pulls the balance sheet to Excel, and you log into the third file, pulls the balance sheet into Excel, and that can get quite tedious. In Intuit Enterprise Suite, when you're in the master file, it has live, right, balance sheet. Like if you change it in the other file, if you update a cash account in the other file and you have the report refreshed, it will change, right? You don't have to do anything extra, no export, import, no logging into, all that stuff. You set the login one time, and then that master file can see all of the different entities that are connected to it. So that's really cool. So multi-entity, again, in the enterprise space, a lot of times, or in the QuickBooks Online space, a lot of times our clients, if they want a consolidation, would have to pay for a third-party application, like a QVinci or something like that. Those ended up being quite expensive and eventually kind of priced themselves out. So sometimes people would pay for custom applications. Those can also get quite expensive. And so that works really well with multi-entity here. And then the other side of it is, let me say this and then I'll get into the product. The other side of it is that people are excited about the dimensions. Now I've kind of coached into it. We have too many options for what is ways to splice our data. Now let me be very clear. Fourlane loves data, and we love being able to set data up appropriately so that we can get access to the details we need so we can make decisions, right? But you know, in QuickBooks Online and in IES, they have too many ways to slice data. They still have tags, right? If you don't know what a tag is kind of like an SEO where you can create tag groups and you can throw tags onto transactions. So it almost was treated like SEO. Then you can report against tags. Then they also had classes, which classes, if you're using classes get converted to dimensions now. Then they have custom fields, right? Custom fields are also ways that you can set things up and, you know, have drop-down lists and multiple choice lists, and then you can report against them. They have customer types. They've got item types, and it's just too many options. Now, again, this is where people like us, like Fourlane, come in handy because we can say, oh, if you use this option, it'll only show up on the header, or if you use this option, it's global for all items, not on a per transaction change. And so we can help you decide, but it is pretty interesting how many choices in IES you have to kind of splice your data. Now, as a smaller company, you know, generally people don't need as much in-depth information. As you kind of go through your teenage years into grown-up years as a company, as you get bigger, as that revenue size grows, you have multiple businesses running within one business, let's be real, most of the time, right? So you've got in the pool company business, you've got your new construction, you've got your maintenance, right? You've got your repair business, and then maybe you have a business around product because you want to, you know, every little bit helps. And then maybe as a pool company you expand to do HVAC because you're already in their backyard. Why not service something else, right? So as you grow, generally there's more revenue lines, there's more businesses running within one business, and we just need more tables to be able to filter data, and we need to be able to set it up. So that is also one of the things with IES, that you can have more dimensions as possibilities. So let me go ahead and pull up that product. Okay, and here is our demo file. So I've got 2 entities in here, right, and I can flip between the 2 entities from this screen. As I was mentioning, we have the multi-entity So if I type in multi, so I can jump to multi-entity. This is reporting across both entities. Also, we have intercompany transactions in here as well. But if I were to look at the profit and loss as an example, so you can see which ones I have: accounts payable, income across multiple entities, accounts receivable, expenses. We can come in here and look at the manual eliminations that we have set up. There's just all sorts of different things. But if I go to the profit and loss as an example, it is going to reflect initially as a consolidated profit and loss. And I can see down here, I also have the ability to display columns. Sorry, it's so zoomed in on this, right? Let me zoom out a little bit. Display columns by, try again, there we go, company, right? And then within each company, you can even break out and display columns by, like I mentioned, customer type, which is actually a custom field in there, or work type. So there's ways that we can do additional breaking out by dimensions. So this is now showing me Keystone Construction, Keystone Terra, any eliminations that they have, and then as well the net total combined together. So pretty cool. That is the multi-company function. When it comes to dimensions, I can come in and see this. As I mentioned, the classes, right, was the original, and then I can add additional dimensions. I added concrete as a dimension in here, and then concrete is now part of, right, I can have headers and sub-values, and then concrete is now a feature that I can add to invoices as an example. So it's kind of like what we're used to seeing on a class, right, what we're used to seeing with a class, but now I can add those things here as well, right? So here's a concrete drop down, and I have it hidden. The other thing that you can do is in reports, when we're going to build a report, you can, if I were to build a new report, create a new report, and of course I always say do it from scratch the first couple of times because that helps. When I do that, I can filter, right? I have to add the column first, so when I come in here to columns that I want to be able to add, I can search for concrete, and it tells me where it will see, right, concrete on line items. So I can add concrete or concrete full name. Again, this is just ways of splicing data. So once I've added it to my report, then I can also come in and filter for concrete, or I can group by concrete. So those dimensions, we can utilize those to create some pretty powerful reports, which is awesome. Outside of that, of course, there's the new, if I just go to reports in general, right, you'll see up top here, the AI generated information. I generate financial summary for July. Go ahead and review the summary. So it is taking into account, benchmarking and how the company is doing history-wise and trends and all this fun stuff. And it is going to spit out, right, the monthly financial summary. So things that people should be looking at. Now, if Intuit can get people to look at their finances better, I'm all for it. I find that we have been generating these kinds of things for our clients for years, and it's really hard to get them to actually look at it. But, it's really neat stuff. So cash flow shows average balance of $720,000. It's a healthy cash position. Income shows significant decline in March and April. So it's just little like insights up top here. And then you can drill down into it as well, and it'll tell you, right, like where and what was causing these things. And of course, you can train it somewhat. Is this helpful or not? So similar to all things AI. So that is really cool as well. Some of the other things that you guys are used to seeing in, so here's the multi-entity, by the way, drop down. Some of the other things that you guys are used to seeing, right, goals and budgets, workflows, time is in IES. You don't have to go into a separate product for that. Projects, customers and leads, right, so similar things that what we're used to seeing in other areas. And IES is going to continue to expand. But the biggest pulls right now, at least for our customers, are going to be around dimensions and consolidated reporting. A lot of our clients that are switching into this product are going to be people coming from Intact because it has a very similar look and feel, right? It's not manufacturing geared. It's not heavy inventory. It does do some inventory, but not heavy inventory geared. And so, and of course, still, even though you see it in here, you see sales orders is actually not live. So, all right. Okay, we talked about a little bit pricing last time. Intuit Enterprise Suite does per entity, per user. They've got some breakdowns, so you do have to get quoted. It's not anything where you just have a price online. And then, of course, the other thing that came out recently was around any third-party applications will now have to pay to hit Intuit's API, which is something that most software does, right? This is not something new. Most software has some kind of API call thing. And so it could cause some of the third-party application pricing to go up. It doesn't look like it's that significant of a price yet, but we will see. This just was launched a couple weeks ago, so we'll see. Anyway, today's a short meeting because I can't show you anything in product, but I wanted to give you guys an update on what's going on. I still have absolute faith that Intuit is continuing to support their QuickBooks Desktop users until their online product one day is good enough to replace it fully. It's just not there yet, and they understand that, so they want to support all of us desktop lovers until that happens, which it's really not desktop lovers, it's inventory lovers. Let's be real, right? So, all right, guys, that's all I got for you today. I hope you were able to take away something great, and please let me know if there are any questions that come up, and we will get back to you. Thanks, everybody.